Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3825 AN. Today's date is January 25th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Countries Wanted Their Gold in 1971. Now they want their gold as we head back to the gold standard. Hey, listen, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you have already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments come in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmick, just clear answers and strategy built around our goals. Visit X22Gold.com and build your portfolio for the long term. That's X22Gold.com, or just click the link in the description. And remember, past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your financial advisor before making investment decisions. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you can see the direction that we are definitely heading right now. We're moving away from the deep state's plan, the central bank's plan, where they were going to shift everything to China. And Trump now, he's actually calling out China because you can see China has been pushing their agenda for quite a while right now. And this was with the help of the central bank system. This is why they wanted Europe, America to have no energy, no manufacturing, because they were planning on something very, very different. And you could see since Trump came into office, he basically put a stop to all of this and is reversing everything that they have been doing. Now, a lot of the nations right now, they are still heading in that direction because they can't change course, because it would be completely and utterly impossible because they're dependent on the central bank system. And this is why Trump started the parallel economic system, because he knew if we just had the central bank system, how would you actually veer off of what the central bank is trying to do? Because if you have nothing to compete with the central bank, how do you basically veer off course, reverse everything, and actually say, okay, we're going to head in a completely different direction? It's completely impossible. This is why the EU, this is why the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the rest of the different countries that fall under the central bank system, this is why they have to continue on the path, because they don't have any alternative. They do not have a parallel economic system that can compete with the central bank in their country. So they're kind of trapped in all this. Trump, he started the parallel economic system as soon as he came into office. He basically started it up. It accelerated very, very quickly. He made trade deals very, very quickly and reversed the globalist order very, very quickly, something the central banks were never, ever counting on. And now, since he's building this parallel economic system, which is made up of tariffs, the gold card, energy sales, technology sales, you name it, you could see that the central banks are panicking. So you're seeing a split right now, and you're seeing those nations still trying to move forward with their entire agenda. But Trump now is calling them out on it, calling Canada out on it. Just the other day, we mentioned how Canada has been making deals with China because you know what China does. They move their product through many different countries to avoid the tariffs, and those countries then send it over to the United States. Canada was trying to do the same exact thing, but Trump is now calling them out on it. And every step of the way, everything the deep state, the central bankers are trying to do, it is completely and utterly failing. Remember, they do not have the leverage. And what's very interesting is that as Trump moves away from the central bank system, you can now hear those countries that are controlled by the central bank system and moving to China and everything that China wants, you can see they're starting to ask for their gold back. Now, think about this. Go back to 1971 when we came off the gold standard. The reason why we came off the gold standard because the central bankers in this country decided we're going to print a lot more of this currency than we have gold. The other countries started to realize this and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? Gold right now is at $35 an ounce. And now you're printing a lot more money. And basically, this is going outside of what we agreed upon. And now the currency is being devalued. And it doesn't go along with what we set here. So we want our gold back. Now, of course, they made the excuse that there's speculators in the market. And we came off the gold standard, and guess what happened? The gold wasn't returned. And now that we're moving back to the gold standard, which I do believe that's where we're heading, we're back to the Constitution. We can see countries now, they're making the excuse that everything's unstable right now because of what Trump is doing, and they want their gold back because I think they see the writing on the wall right now. I think they realize, holy crap, the central bank system, the agenda for the central bank is not going to work. Trump was just out in Davos, spoke to the World Economic Forum. They realize globalism is dead. They realize the United States is heading in a completely different direction. They realize the tariff system is building up very, very quickly. And they're saying, holy crap, if we don't have anything to back our currencies, we are screwed. That's what they're realizing right now, because you can't depend on the central bank system. If that was the case, they would just hoard the central bank currency. And they say, okay, we're safe. But why would they want their gold back? They want their gold back because that's the true money. And they know this. We'll be talking a little bit more about this a little bit later. But first, look what Trump has done. He's now trolling the climate alarmists. And basically, we could see there's a huge winter storm. Cold temperatures are all over the place. And the earth is actually cooling down. And remember, the sun is controlling all of this. So everything these ridiculous people have been saying for a very long time, it is completely untrue. Actually, if you go back to the 70s, early 80s, again, we were in a cold spell then. They talked about ice age. When the sunspots changed, the earth started to warm up, and then they shifted over to global warming. And then when the sunspots changed once again, what happened? The earth started to cool again. And they said, okay, instead of saying we're heading toward an ice age, why don't we just call it climate change? It's always changing. And that's to confuse the people. But this is what Trump put out. Record cold wave expected to hit 40 states, rarely seen anything like it before. Could the environmentalist insurrectionists please explain whatever happened to global warming? Yeah, whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to the seas rising? Whatever happened to the polar ice caps melting? Because they said it was going to happen 10 years ago. Oh, wait, they said 10 years before that. Oh, wait, 10 years before that. Oh, wait, 10 years before that. And it never happened. And now you could see the leader and the individual that has been pushing all this, Greta Thunberg, where she was saying we only have 10 years. How dare you? Where's she? Oh, that's right. Free Palestine. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. BLM. Oh, wait. No, I'm sorry. Gaza. Oh, wait. No. Now she's on the ICE deportations. So once again, it's one gigantic hoax. And I think everyone's really starting to see this. And you can see that China right now, they've been setting up the China Belt Road Initiative, and it has reached $213 billion in new construction contracts and investments in 2025, up 74% from 2024. So basically, China now is trying to build their new economic system, and you have to remember what the deep state, the central bankers, were trying to do. They were trying to destroy the manufacturing, the energy production here in this country and throughout Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Trump now is reversing all of this, and now China is kind of trapped in all of this because remember, they were setting everything up for China to be the lead in all this, the manufacturing, the energy, the Silk Road, and Trump, he threw a wrench in all of this. And Trump, he put this out on Truth. He says foreign direct investment in China slides by 9.5% in 2025, which means the investments now are shifting because the people see the writing on the wall and everything the central bank has set up, it is completely and utterly falling apart. Now, it doesn't mean China and the deep state, the central bankers won't try to gain back control, but every time they're going to try to do this, Trump is going to call them out and he's going to place tariffs on them to show them that, listen, this method of what you're doing, it's not going to work. This is what he put out on Truth. If Governor Carney thinks he's going to make Canada a drop-off port for China to send goods and products into the United States, he is sorely mistaken. China will eat Canada alive, completely devour it, including the destruction of their businesses, social fabric, and the general way of life. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately be hit with a 100% tariff against all Canadian goods and products coming into the U.S. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So yes, Canada is making a deal with China for EVs, bypassing everything. Canada's trying to ship their EVs into Canada, and Canada's hoping that they can ship it into the U.S. And Trump now is completely and utterly stopping this. And you can see that Canada is in a very, very tough position. And every step of the way, that's what Trump is doing right now. He's shutting down the moves of China, moves of the central bank. And remember, the central bank, China, the entire globalist system, they're not going to stop fighting back. They're going to continue to fight back because they see what Trump is doing right now. Trump now is dismantling their entire system piece by piece, and they realize it. And they realize that as he's dismantling their system, he's building his system up and is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. What they didn't realize is that everything they set up, they gave the United States the leverage. And Trump is using this leverage against them every step of the way. Remember, the United States is the consumer. Well, it's a new year, and we've all seen the headlines about Ozempic and similar miracle weight loss shots. But a major 2025 analysis just revealed that people who stop taking these injections regain an average of 60% of their weight within just 1 year. Most of the gain is pure fat, and the muscle lost during the treatment stays gone, leaving you with a crash metabolism and a body that's basically older than when you started. This is why I'm taking something way better called GLP-1, and I'm obsessed with the results I'm seeing in the mirror. It doesn't use needles to override my system. It uses plant-based, clinically studied ingredients like Medical Aid to help my body naturally boost its own hungry controlling signals. I get the same fullness and less cravings, but without the prescriptions, scary side effects, or metabolic rebound. This magical supplement supports my weight management goals while protecting my muscles, helping me keep the weight off for good. To celebrate the new year, it currently has a 50% off promotion for GLP-1 Elevate only at trimwithx22.com. Plus, every order for a limited time comes with a free 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free express shipping with subscriptions. Once again, the site is trimwithx22.com. Get yours now, or just click the link in the description. All the other countries sell their products to the consumer. It's like a corporation. If they sold, let's just say, a widget to the people of the country, and the people decide, you know something, I don't want to buy that widget anymore, what happens to the company? The company doesn't make any money. They're not selling their widget. The company goes out of business. This is why you see companies go bankrupt. This is why they shut down. This is why they have the big signs that say going out of business. So if the United States says, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to place a tariff on every single country right now. And if you want to sell your products in this country, you're going to have to pay this fee. And it's going to go to the American people. Now, they could fight against this, but Trump has a secret weapon. It's called move the manufacturers back to this country. And how do you do that? You lower the energy prices. You remove the regulations. You give them incentives. And what happens is over time, and yes, some manufacturing plants are going to take some time. Other manufacturing plants aren't going to take that much time. But eventually what's going to happen is you're going to see that we're able to produce the items here. So if you want to compete, if you want to sell your items, you're going to be tariffed. And there's nothing you could do about this, because if you don't sell your product in the U.S., all those companies, all the business that is coming out of these countries, it goes down the tube. Because the consumers have the last say. You see, the consumers can pretty much do without shirts, shoes made in China or in other places, other components. Yes, other components we can't do without, but that's why Trump is ramping a lot of that up here in this country. So we can see that we, as a country, we have the leverage, and Trump is using this against them, and they know it. This is why they fold every single time. And at the same time, Trump is now building up the economy in this country. Because once again, what has the deep state, the central bankers, done? They've made everyone dependent on the government, like a socialist system. This is not what the founding fathers wanted. And the only reason they had to do this is because the currency continually devalues and the system breaks down for the poor, for the middle class. And the only way to keep these people in line is to keep them on government assistance. This is why they started a long time ago. Because if you had a working economy, a currency that doesn't lose its value, and you had a system that worked where jobs were created and the economy was strong, people wouldn't have to be dependent on the government. Because, again, if you have a strong economy, people are working. And I know people think, no, that can't happen. You're always going to have certain people that are poor, but think about how many people we have in this country. It's ridiculous, because when you really look at the system that they created, it breaks down over time. If you had a system that worked for the people, yeah, you might have people that are lazy. You might have people that don't want to work. You might have people that say, I don't want a job. Yeah, of course you're going to have those people. But if you continually strive to have jobs for the people, and you keep putting it back in the infrastructure and building the company up, you're going to expand just like a regular corporation. A regular corporation, if they keep reinvesting, they keep putting out incredible products, the company expands. You create more and more jobs. The same thing's going to happen in this country. And we need to get people off of government assistance. And a lot of people don't want to leave government assistance. Why? Because the amount of money that they're getting from the government is over and above what they can make on jobs. And this is the way the central bank system is designed. Wall Street Apes put this out and says, stay-at-home mom says she lived better on government welfare than she does now working. Please tell me how it makes any freaking sense that as a stay-at-home mom, I had a $500 in food stamps. I had health insurance for my entire family, and we got $7,000 back on taxes. I go back to work. I lose my food stamps. I lose my health insurance, and we're only getting $100 back on taxes. This is why people don't want to work, because while I am working my butt off and losing all that stuff, I still living paycheck to paycheck when I was living paycheck to paycheck before. But at least I had food stamps and health insurance, and I got $7,000 back. Yeah, how's that mathing? So think about this for a second. As the system breaks down, the system doesn't work for the people. The wages drop dramatically. Yes, in the very beginning of the central bank system, your wages have to adjust. At the end of the central bank system, that doesn't happen. The inflation outpaces the wages, especially with energy and everything else that you throw on top of it. This is why they have to make sure that they put people on government assistance. Because think about it. If you take the entire country off government assistance, would you have people going against those people that have been running the government? Yeah, they would. The Democrats, the central bankers, they wouldn't be in power, would they? The people would revolt. So how do you keep the people happy? You keep giving them more and more money. So how do you give them more and more money? Oh, that's right. You got to borrow from the central bank system. If you borrow from the central bank system, that adds to the debt. It adds to the interest, which means you have to tax people more. You're only taxing the people that are working more money. It's a socialist system that they set up here. The money's taken from everybody who is working internally. Think about that for a second. Trump now is changing all of this up. And once the central bank is removed, once we go back to sound money, once we bring the jobs back to this country, you're going to see something very, very different. And Trump, he let everyone know, yes, we're seeing the devaluation of the currency. They call that inflation. But what you're really seeing is the currency is devaluing. Every time you go to the store, every time you go to pay for something, and it takes a lot more pieces of paper or a lot more blips, that means the value of the currencies decline. That means you need a lot more of it to pay for that same exact item. The item has not changed a bit. So that's what we're seeing. And Trump pretty much says it. He's pointing to the conservative alternative, and he put this out on Truth. The value of the dollar depreciated by nearly 25% the last 4 years under Biden. That's the first time in history a drop like that has ever happened. Even worse than the Great Depression. Yet no one is talking about it. Remember when Biden, the inflation went up to almost 9%. I think it hit 9%, 9.1 or something. Well, basically, you have to remember that inflation doesn't go away. That devaluing of the currency stays. It doesn't go away. Trump can mitigate it by making sure it doesn't go up anymore, which he's already done. True inflation saying is at 1.7%. But that inflation, that devaluation of the currency that you felt doesn't go away. And Trump is calling the Biden administration out on all of this because, once again, this is what people are still feeling. And you can see at this point in time, Trump's letting everyone know that the people that had been brought the litigation against the tariffs is China, the central bankers, because, again, they were moving in a different direction. They were moving in the Green New Scam. They were moving toward the Great Reset. They were moving in the direction that China was going to be control of the entire world's economy. There's no other way you can look at this. Because if you're going all solar, wind, and China's building coal-fired plants, building nuclear plants, and they're going to have all the manufacturing, who do you think was going to be the center of the economic system in the world? It wasn't going to be Europe. It wasn't going to be the United States. It wasn't going to be Australia. It wasn't going to be New Zealand. It wasn't going to be any of these countries. It was going to be China. And Trump is now letting everyone know they're the ones who are trying to stop the tariffs. Now, ask yourself a simple question. Why would they want to stop the tariffs? Because this goes against their entire plan. This is what Trump put out on Truth. The people who brought the tariff litigation against our country now in the United States Supreme Court are strongly China-oriented and very upset by the fact that the United States is doing so well. Giant growth and investment, almost no inflation. These people, in some cases Americans, should be ashamed of themselves. Make America great again. And he's absolutely right. And what's very interesting, as Trump keeps building the tariff system and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, you can see countries are now panicking. Remember, Germany, the EU, the UK, and all the other countries, they were set on a path to go down into the Green New Scam, the Great Reset. They don't have a tariff system like the United States. They're dependent on the central bank system. Yes, they have money coming in from the tariffs of the United States, but they don't have the tariff system the way Trump is building the tariff system to compete against the central bank system. They're dependent on the ECB. They're dependent on getting loans. They're dependent on all this. So for them to actually turn their entire economic system, their entire agenda around is a lot more difficult. But they see what's happening here in this country and they realize, holy crap, Trump now is competing against the central bank. We're not moving in the direction of the Green New Scam. We're not moving in the direction of the Great Reset. We're moving in the direction of sound money. And it looks like Trump is building the tariff system because they know what it is. They're not stupid. I'm not talking about the Starmer or Macron or Mertz. I'm talking about those people above them, the central bankers. They know that Trump is moving towards probably going back to the gold standard, going back to the Constitution. So at this point in time, just like in 1971 when we came off the gold standard, as Trump heads towards the gold standard, what do you think countries are going to want? They're going to want their gold back. And all of a sudden, Germany is out there, and Germany's saying, yeah, we would like our gold back right now. And they're saying the shift in relations and unpredictability of Trump makes it risky to store so much gold in the U.S. Germany is facing calls to withdraw its billions of euros worth of gold from U.S. vaults, spurred on by the shift in transatlantic relations and unpredictability of Trump. Germany holds the world's biggest national gold reserves after the U.S., of which approximately 1,236 tons is stored in New York. Emmanuel Monch, a leading economist and former head of research at Germany's Federal Bank, called for the gold to be brought home, saying it was too risky for it to be kept in the U.S. under the current administration. So once again, all of a sudden, they see what's happening. They understand, most likely we're going back to the Constitution, going back to sound money. Why would they want their gold back? When the central bankers back in the day, back in 1971, when they started to print a lot more pieces of these pieces of paper called the Federal Reserve Note than we had gold, what did the countries do? They said, whoa, wait a minute. We would like our gold back because it looks like you're now coming off the gold standard. You're printing a lot more currency. This wasn't our deal. So actually, the value of the currency is going to devalue very, very quickly. And this is not good. So we would like our gold back to protect ourselves. And what happened? Well, they said the speculators in the market. And basically, we came off the gold standard. We went to the petrodollar system. And then we saw massive inflation, which means a massive devaluation in the currency. That's what we saw. And now Trump is doing the reverse. And the countries want their gold back because this time they know that gold is going to hedge against the fake currency that everyone holds. And that currency is from the central bank system. They know that currency is going to devalue very, very quickly. As soon as the United States says they're going back to the gold standard, you know what happens to the currency? Around the world, all the foreign governments' currency all of a sudden tanks. The currency of the United States is backed by gold. So wouldn't they want their gold back so they can back their currency, their national currency, with gold? Because right now it's not. So that's very interesting. Let's see how that plays out. Now, the other thing that we know is that Trump, he's trying to give the Americans a 2,000 tariff rebate. And yes, it's going to be set for those people making under a certain amount of money. But Treasury Secretary said something very, very interesting, is that the $2,000 benefit might not take the form of direct cash disbursements. He said they haven't finalized the details, but the dividend could come in lots of forms, such as through tax reductions already under consideration, including exemptions for tips, overtime pay, Social Security benefits, among other deductions. So they might add this to the deduction. So we'll have to see how this all plays out, but you can see the direction that we're definitely heading in. We're heading in a direction that is separate and apart from the globalists, separate and apart from the central bank system. And you can see the deep state players, the central bankers, they're now panicking right now. And what does that mean? I do believe that we're going to see gold, we're going to see silver, and yes, cryptocurrency I do believe is going to follow. We're going to start to see them skyrocket. Now, gold is approaching, and it's very, very close to $5,000 an ounce. Silver, I do believe now is over $100 an ounce. And I do believe these are going to continue to move up and up and up because as the world realizes where all this is headed, and eventually when Trump makes the announcement, well, I think everything then is going to change and people are going to say, whoa, holy crap, look at this. We are definitely going back to the gold standard. And I do believe this, most likely Trump is setting this all up to revalue the gold. Remember, the value of gold right now is valued at $42 an ounce. I do believe Trump is waiting for gold to get to a certain point, and then he's going to say, listen, we're going to revalue gold. And then we're going to say, you know what, maybe we should look to see if we have the gold. How much do we actually have? And once we find out, and we're revaluing gold at $9,000, $12,000, $15,000, and we have a lot of gold, well, that is going to give him even more leverage against what? The central bank system. So think about it. We have gold revalued at whatever price it's going to be, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, wherever it's going to hit. We have a lot of gold, and Trump is building the tariff system. Put all that together, who has the leverage? It's not the central bank. Because once Trump revalues the gold, the whole fiat currency is doomed. Gold then destroys the fiat currency because it shows you a true picture of what it's really worth. So in the end, Trump has already set everything up to have all the leverage, and the central bank will cease to exist the way we know it today. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.